I wonder if you, Ronald Sharp's my name, let me introduce myself. I'm an author and the owner of the site gradedreading.com. I want to tell you a little bit about my story in terms of being a writer. I started writing nearly 7 years ago when I was 55 years old. Very late starter. The reason I was a late starter is up until that time I couldn't write. You say, well, why couldn't you write? Everybody can write by the time they're age 55. Well, I'm dyslexic, and because I'm dyslexic, I would put off writing, and in my business life I would always employ somebody to do anything that was in written form. The public speaking side, no problems at all, but writing for me was a big hassle. And when the decision was made to start writing, it was such a difficult thing for me to get my head around because it just wasn't me. And what I want to talk about on this video is you can do anything if you partner. Partnering is a key. Stephen Scott wrote some interesting material, and Donald Trump was taking up some of Stephen Scott's ideas, mentioning that many people who are successful because they partner. This is true when you partner with the right partner. It's true when you partner with the right wife or husband, and certainly in business, the right partner can be the difference between success or failure. So I want to talk about how partnering helped me write, because in the end analysis, I'm not a writer, I'm a storyteller. But the narrative to a story is very important. In fact, a book came out some while ago called The Shack, and the original story came from a truck driver who had no capacity to write. But the story was such a good story that when it was given to a writer, it ended up becoming a bestseller because it was a brilliant concept in the idea. That's what made it successful. There was a film a while back where a guy reversed his life. He started off old and was winding back to being young. And just that idea, storytelling idea, made the film what it was. So I get ideas. I'm an ideas man. I believe that my ideas are inspired ideas, and I believe to be inspired with ideas is a gift. So I'm gifted in some areas, but I have liabilities. The fact that I'm dyslexic means I can get a great idea, but actually getting it down in written form, which is to publishing standard, is a very, very big problem for me. So I partnered up with a co-writer, and her name is Jenny Sweeney. We've never met. She lives on one side of the world in the Cotswold in England, and I live in Esperance, Australia. Although when we first met, I lived in the Philippines. So there's a synergy when you bring two gifts together. Jenny Sweeney's gift of writing with my ideas works really well because she wasn't really good at coming up with very tricky or complicated or original ideas for writing a book, but she writes beautifully. So we soundboard off each other. We sound each other out on what's going on, and that actually spawns new ideas for me being the ideas person, and then she goes off and rewrites some more and then sends it back, and it becomes that 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. There's a synergistic effect where 1 + me + Jenny becomes more than just the two of us. There becomes a catalytic effect where the end product is better than the two of us, if that makes any sense. So to get the book Dream Bouncing, which I've released recently with Jenny, to the place where it got to, it came from a short story to a story that started, that ended halfway through, that then got a second half, then got several rewrites, with a completely different ending and 3 different backstories from the original story. It saw its first time in print episodically, 5 half pages in a newspaper to a readership of 7,000 in Mindanao. And now it's being released as an ebook for the price of a cup of coffee, $3.99 on gradedreading.com. We again needed other people in the partnership to get it to the point where you can download it on your e-reader, your iPad, your PC, however you want to download the book. We needed a web designer to build the website, and oldie like me and certainly Jenny don't have web designing capacities, so we brought into the team, which gave a synergistic effect again, the web designer. Then we did a narrator, and on some of my earlier videos we talk in depth about the value of audio sampling and narrating. How to get a narrator, and that a narrator has a completely different skill set to a writer or even a person who's a storyteller. So Aileen does a beautiful job in her beautiful, not so broad Scottish accent, because she's lived in Australia so long, and she's so expressionate that she makes the writing live. In fact, Jenny made the comment that it was strange to hear her own writing read back to her. She almost found it impossible to believe that she'd written it. But that's because the skill of a very expressionate narrator brings to life the quality of the writing. And then we had to add, looking at my notes here, we had to add a guy to do the internet marketing. So, because I'm not very good with computers, they fry my brains, they frustrate me. So we've got guys in the team that let everybody on the web know that where we are so that they can find us. Because in the world of ebooks, if you don't bring the reader to the book, nobody gets to see the book. There's just one book hidden in the forest of ebooks, and there's exponential amounts of people writing ebooks. More people are writing now than any other time in history. So these people who are computer savvy, they understand about formatting, and that has to happen before you can load an ebook. They also understand about watermarking, and watermarking is probably the best way of protecting your copyright. Copyright happens from the moment you write it on paper, and copyright really only matters if you've got the ability to chase somebody who's trying to steal your work. And it's a bit of an urban myth that people steal your work anyhow. They're that busy trying to actually get themselves recognised. They're not stealing your work to get themselves recognised with your work. So, and of course audio streaming needs to be put inside a website, and that's another computer skill that is teaming up or partnering up. So what a person like I've managed to do is I've gotten over the hurdles of writing terrible manuscripts with huge amounts of mistakes in them because I'm dyslexic, with spell checker and grammar checker, enough to get the manuscript to a point where a person like Jenny gets excited about the narrative, and then after 2 years rewrites it and rewrites it and rewrites it to the stage that the book Dream Bouncing now is a fabulous yarn for the price of a cup of coffee. And we're encouraging you to go and look at the free content, read the children's stories, look at the audio samplers, get a taste of what Dream Bouncing is all about, and then don't be miserable. Realise that authors that spend 6 years building a platform, and all us in the team have taken to get this this book and this, if I could be bold enough to say, this great story to the point where you can read it. Recommend it to your friends. Recommend the audio samplers are all free, and they're designed to actually build trust with you to the point where you know this is a good story, so I don't want to listen to it anymore, because by downloading it and reading it, you can put your own imagination and you can see what's being described in your own mind's eye, and it becomes what they call a good read or a good yarn. And it is a good yarn because it's not predictable, and it's done in such a way, the pacing is done in such a way that if you get to page 25, 30, you're starting to ask questions. Well, that's an interesting idea. I wonder where that's going. And the wonder where that's going is to keep you involved and engaged, and you're constantly trying to work out what is going to be the solution to the circumstances that the sleep disorder specialist and his girlfriend get themselves into, and how are they going to extract themselves from this complicated set of circumstances. And you are actually using your left-hand brain and being involved and engaged to try and think you know what the end is, to find out the end is completely different to what you think it is. So many stories are so thin on their narrative line that they're predictable. Dream Bouncing is not like that. It's a great read. Go and check it out. Go and check out gradedreading.com. I'm Ronald Sharp. Thank you for listening to this particular YouTube presentation. Cheers.